The 2025 government shutdown is the direct result of a coordinated strategy by Senate Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer, to block government funding unless their demands on healthcare subsidies were met. While public talking points focus on protecting working families and affordable healthcare, the legislative record and the fiscal mechanics expose a much broader play. Locking in expanded government benefits, including subsidized healthcare, for a rapidly increasing population of non-citizens, many of whom were allowed into the US through the redefinition of lawfully present by executive order and agency discretion. Sequence of events. After the expiration of pandemic-era enhancements to the Affordable Care Act, ACA, premium subsidies, Republicans in the House passed clean continuing resolutions to keep the government funded at previous levels, without attaching an extension of those subsidies. Senate Democrats, under Schumer's direction, declared these bills dead on arrival, refusing any government funding measure that did not include an extension of the expanded ACA subsidies. These subsidies, while publicly described as critical for American families, legally extend to anyone defined as lawfully present, a category which now covers not just lawful permanent residents, but also parolees, asylum applicants, and those admitted under humanitarian programs created by executive fiat. Who is lawfully present? Originally, lawfully present was a narrow legal category. Through years of regulatory and administrative changes, including major expansions under the Biden administration, it now includes large populations of border crossers and parolees, who would previously have been classified as illegal immigrants. These individuals, once paroled or allowed to remain in the US under temporary humanitarian rules for a year or more, are immediately eligible for ACA marketplace insurance and the same federal subsidies as citizens. Federal data confirms that over 400,000 people in new parole programs alone have been added to the lawfully present count since 2021. Fiscal reality. The enhanced ACA subsidies cost an estimated $25 to $30 billion per year. Extending them permanently, as Democrats have demanded, would add over $200 billion to federal spending over the next decade. Schumer's refusal to pass any funding bill without these subsidies directly ties the shutdown to a demand that all lawfully present individuals, including new entrants under parole and humanitarian programs, remain eligible for taxpayer-funded benefits. Healthcare for non-citizens, how it actually works. Although official statements insist illegal immigrants can't get federal health care, the distinction is almost entirely administrative. Once reclassified as lawfully present, former border crossers and parolees are eligible for ACA plans and subsidies. Meanwhile, emergency Medicaid reimbursements, state-funded expansions using freed-up federal dollars, and safety net payments ensure that, in practice, a large share of undocumented residents receive publicly funded care. The legal structure is carefully layered to preserve plausible deniability. Democrats point to the statute, while the bureaucracy channels billions to people who would not have been eligible a decade ago. Schumer's role and blame. Chuck Schumer's leadership in the Senate has been central to this strategy. By weaponizing the Senate's procedural tools, he has refused to even consider government funding without a guarantee that these expanded benefits remain in place. This approach isn't about short-term negotiations. It's about entrenching an entitlement framework that merges healthcare, immigration, and welfare in ways the public doesn't fully see. Every shutdown headline blaming Republican obstruction is possible only because Schumer made the continued eligibility of an expanded, redefined, lawfully present population the non-negotiable condition for reopening the government. Media, messaging, and the blame game. The media amplifies the narrative that millions of Americans will lose coverage, rarely explaining that the definition of who gets subsidies has shifted radically through executive discretion, not congressional vote. Fact-checkers technically defend Democratic claims, since undocumented immigrants on paper aren't eligible, but they ignore the administrative tricks and backdoor expansions that have made the line between legal and illegal meaningless for entitlement purposes. This narrative is only possible because of how carefully the law has been massaged to hide its true effect. The 2025 government shutdown exposes the machinery beneath modern politics: strategic redefinition of legal terms, administrative layering to expand federal benefits, and procedural brinkmanship in Congress. Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats own this shutdown. Their refusal to fund the government is directly linked to a broader agenda, one that ensures the ever-growing pool of non-citizens classified as lawfully present remains locked into the taxpayer-funded entitlement system. This is not about compassion or fiscal responsibility. It is a calculated maneuver to fuse immigration and welfare, shielded by legal complexity and reinforced by media deflection.